So, you want to play a comp that can explode the whole board and one-shot the backline. Well, you came to the right place, because Exteriors Heater Cheekshoe, Lilia Sage Comp Guide. In this video, we are going to cover the strongest items, strongest units, and strongest augments. And we're going to start off with our items, and the best in slot item for Lilia would be Spear Soljin, so she can keep casting her ability over and over. Then you have Death Cap to amplify her ability power, same with Jewel Gauntlet, give her crit to amplify it even more. And then her best alternative items is, if you cannot build Spear Soljin, Adaptive Helm is really good because it gives her enough mana regen since it gives you 10 mana every 3 seconds, and you get some ability power out of it. And if you can't build any other AP items, Archangel Staff is actually really good too because it would amplify her power even more as well, because over time, the longer you fight, the more damage she will get. If you need the healing on the board, having Gunblade on her is not bad to have. And then for her best Orin artifact items is Mana Zane. This item is very powerful on Lilia because it gives you 120 mana for a duration of 4 seconds, and then her third cast is the best one, so therefore it makes you ramp up mana even quicker to get that third cast going. And then DFG is good for every AP unit overall because for one, it makes you start off with full mana, so you can just cast right away, and two, it shoots like a fireball to a tank that would almost delete them, so therefore if you have this item on a mage, you want to line up the unit to the tank so they can one-shot the tank, and then after a certain amount of time, they become like Ascension, where they have more AP to one-shot everything on the board. And then Lich Bane is very powerful on Lilia specifically because for every time you cast, you have an empowered auto attack that does magical damage, and since Lilia casts a lot, this item's very good on her. And then the best tank you can have on this board is a Nautilus because he's a mythic with Lilia, so you get that mythic synergy going, and then on top of that he's a Warden, and Warden is one of the best tank synergies at the moment. His best in slot item is having an Onyx Spark, and if you're gonna play any AP board, you need at least one magic resist shred item, and what that does is it reduces magic resist on the board for the enemy team, so it makes your main carry that's ability power based do more damage to them. And then because Nautilus is not too tank item dependent, having this item would not hurt him at all for having it on him. And then his best tank item overall would be having a Protector's Vow because he's not a champion that would need Gargoyle Stoneplate since he's not a unit that can heal or shield. His ability is just knock up and stun. So having this item is actually very good on him because of that reasoning, since this item gives him a shield if he's below 50% HP, and it also gives him more armor and magic resist. And then speaking of healing, having Redemption on him is really good because it gives him that healing that he needs because he does not have healing at all. And then his good alternative items is because we're in a AP heavy meta, having a Declaw is very good and also gives him healing. And then if you cannot build the other two tank items, having a Warmonks is very decent as well because it gives them extra HP so it can last longer. And then speaking of extra HP, having a Steadfast Heart is not too bad either because it'll give him damage reduction, but the downside is it has armor, which you kind of don't need to go against most boards, but it's pretty decent against Ashe. And then his best Orin artifact item would be Horizon Focus. This item is actually surprisingly really good on Nautilus because what this item does is for every unit you stun, you do 20% of their maximum health, so therefore on Nautilus is very good because he stunned multiple units with his ability. And then overall tank or an artifact item, Diamond Hands is very good on him because it makes him last longer, gives him some AP, and it gives you some gold. And then same thing with Spirit, is very good overall because it gives him that healing that he does not have, and it gives him magic resist. And then the best utility item holder would be Morgana because she only needs Morellicon, and Morellicon is very powerful on her because she could hit the whole board and anti-heal them. And then if you do not have an Onyx Spark, you could put Static Shiv on Morgana, but if you want to put both Onyx Spark and Static Shiv in, I wouldn't say it's too bad since Lilia can hit the backline with it, but I would prefer to have at least one. If you have both, I would say it's okay. And then to play this board fully, it would be having main tank Nautilus with main DPS Lilia, and then utility item holder Morgana, and then Alawi is a very good splash trait because she has both Warden for Nautilus, and she has Ghostly with Morgana. And then since Nautilus and Lilia are both mythic, you need to throw in a mythic unit. Therefore you have Nico. And Nico is also an Arcanist with Alawi, so that you have like a lot of synergies there. And then for the rest of the board, you just throw in all Sages, so you could have more AP on the board, like Wukong and Diana. And since Diana is also a Dragon Lord, and you need Invoker with Lilia, you could throw in a Janna to get that Invoker in. But when you hit towards the late game, you can get rid of Janna and just throw in an Azir. And then for level 9, you can throw in a Ornn or something. Or if not, you can throw in a Zyra for +1 Sage. In order to play that board, you gotta learn how to play the early game. So I would say the best early game board would be to play the Kog'Maw board, where you have Kog'Maw as baby Lilia, and then Cho'Gath as baby Nautilus. So to fill up this board is because Cho'Gath is a behemoth, you throw in Malphite as a behemoth, and then since you need Mythic, Kog'Maw, Cho'Gath, and Nico as a Mythic, so therefore you activate that trait early, and then since Kog'Maw is a sniper, you could throw in a Caitlyn, and then over time you can just throw in random units like Alawi, or you could throw in like Shen or something, so you can get Ghostly in, like just whatever to fill up the board with extra synergies on the board. And if you cannot do the Kog'Maw board, you can do the Fated board. It's actually not that bad since Fated is pretty strong early game, so therefore you have the Nullis item holder would be Yasuo, and then the Lilia item holder would be Ahri. These two units are actually very strong because they actually did get buffed last patch, so they're pretty strong early game now. And then to fill it up, you have like the Fated units, which is Yasuo, Ahri, Kindred. And then Kindred is a very good Merlicon item holder. So if you have a Merlicon, you can just throw a Merlicon on her. And then to put in a duelist, you could throw in like a Kiana or a Darius. And then since Rek'Sai is a very strong unit too as well, it pairs up really well with Kindred since you get Dryad early game. And you can throw in like a +1 like Bruiser or something, like just extra something just like so you can save HP. And then now for the augments, I would say the best one to have on the board would be like a magic wand. Because you're playing mostly AP heavy, having this extra rod and extra AP on the board will help a lot. And then since you're mostly casting your abilities, you want a crit, so having Jewel Lotus is very powerful for that. And if you already have a Jewel Gauntlet instead, you gain +15 more critical damage. So having Jewel Lotus with Jewel Gauntlet is very good as well. And then since you're always casting, having Combat Caster is very good for casters in general because you'll keep having a shield, so therefore you will save a lot of HP. And then since you're playing mostly Sage anyways, having extra Sage on the board would not hurt at all. And that is it for my Lilia Sage comp guide. If you have any questions, or if you want me to do another comp, just let me know in the comments section down below. Until then, I'll see you guys next time. Later.